Hey guys, welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. Happy President's Day to all of you. Hopefully having as good time as your favorite president. And what a week it's been for said favorite president, with more major wins on the economy, the border, and America's interests abroad. Over in Munich, Secretary Mark Rubio delivered... Sorry guys, it's been a long day. I've been traveling with the kids all day. Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivered a masterful speech laying out the Trump doctrine, while the Democrats decided to send, well, AOC. Not exactly their best. AOC, who should have brought along, I don't know, a map. But don't worry about that. We'll show you the tape. And we've got so much to get into. Maybe I'll even take a few questions if there's time. Had a great weekend with the kids for President's Day weekend. Got to go take them skiing. A lot of work taking care of four kids. I couldn't take all five. Kai, with her wrist, made it a little bit hard. But guys, just make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing so you never miss one of these major episodes. Remember, if you do miss the show here on Rumble, go over to Apple, Spotify, check out the podcast that way, or if your friends get their podcast that way, make sure they know so that we can get the word out. For all of the top headlines that we cover on the show, go over to my news app, MXM News, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. And of course, don't forget about our brave sponsors for having the guts to support this program, including our friends over at All Family Pharmacy. If you've been thinking about stocking up on medication, this is your chance. All Family Pharmacy is running a huge President's sale with 47% off. 47% off medications everyone is asking about. Ivermectin, NAD, hydroxychloroquine, and so much more. You know, the stuff that actually helps you. Built for people who want to stay prepared and stay ahead before anyone gets sick in the house. All Family Pharma has you covered. You don't have to beg your doctor, sit in a waiting room, or deal with insurance. You simply order online. One of their licensed doctors reviews your requests, writes the prescription, and your medication ships straight to your door. Don't wait. The sale ends tomorrow at midnight, February 17th. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Don Jr. That's important to grab your 47%. So allfamilypharmacy.com/DONJR. Grab the 47% off before it's gone. And again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/Don Jr. And now, let's get into all of the top headlines. These ones kept me busy over the weekend. I was with my kids, and again, getting four kids ready to go skiing every day, I promise you it's much more work than actual work. It was fun, but a lot of work. So if I'm a little scatterbrained right now, I'm mentally recovering from some of the insanity. But I want to start in Munich, Germany, at the annual security forum, because the contrast really could not have been more clear. Secretary Rubio delivered one of the most powerful addresses by an American Secretary of State that I've seen since J.D. Vance. Really. And even J.D., who delivered an epic speech last year, said it was a great speech and worth watching the whole thing. It was a clear message of what the Trump doctrine really means and how we're not here just to oversee managed decline. Check this out.
America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history. What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into inaction by fear. Fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future.
Rubio stood up in front of the entire European establishment and delivered a much-needed reality check about why the West matters and why we're not just going to sit back and let it all crumble. He talked about how historically America and Europe share not just military and economic ties, but a spiritual and cultural connection rooted in Western civilization. He called on European leaders to stop being complacent, to rebuild their militaries, to stop outsourcing their security, and to reject the managed decline of the West. Because we don't want weak allies, guys. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great civilization and we are willing to defend it. Watch.
Part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices our forefathers made together for the common civilization to which we have fallen heir. And so this is why we Americans may sometimes come off as a little direct and urgent in our counsel. This is why President Trump demands seriousness and reciprocity from our friends here in Europe. The reason why, my friends, is because we care deeply. We care deeply about your future and ours. And if at times we disagree, our disagreements come from our profound sense of concern about a Europe with which we are connected, not just economically, not just militarily. We are connected spiritually, and we are connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive. Because the two great wars of the last century serve for us as history's constant reminder that ultimately our destiny is and will always be intertwined with yours.
Rubio called for a reinvigorated alliance that boldly races into the future, not one paralyzed by the fear of climate change, fear of war, and fear of technology. We talked about this all the time on the show, guys. Europe is going the way of open borders and censorship, while lecturing us that climate change is the real threat and that the mindset will never lead to prosperity, okay? It's just not gonna happen if they think that way. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just insane, but so is so much coming out of there. And honestly, the fact that we listen to Europe about anything at this point is simply mind-boggling. They are committing civilizational suicide through suicidal empathy, and it's not a recipe for success. Just look at this story out of the Netherlands, where a criminal alien let into the country under their amnesty program literally butchered his girlfriend because he claimed she was paying too much attention to her newborn baby. All those things. Paying too much attention to a newborn baby. And not enough to him. So much so that he stabbed her nearly 300 times. 300, almost 300. Think about that. These are the people they want living in there. And according to reports, the prosecutor somehow managed to ask for only 10 years. I think the judge decided they should get even less. Think about that. How do you survive as a civilization if that's the mindset, if that's the mentality? Now, this egregious lack of justice happened back in July of 2025, but some of the most terrifying details are just coming to light. Because as I mentioned, it gets worse. In citing the criminal's, quote, limited cognitive capabilities, the judge reduced the sentence in half, a mere 5 years. He stabbed and killed someone for spending a little too much time with their brand newborn baby, stabbed her almost 300 times. A 10-year sentence was far too harsh, obviously. They had limited cognitive capabilities. Yeah, well, so why'd you let them in the country to begin with? I'm sure they're going to add a lot of value. And the judge added on mandatory psychiatric treatment. Treatment? I'm sorry, but guys, treatment won't fix evil murderers like this. There's only one thing that fixes this stuff, and you're not going to find it in Europe. How exactly is this sentence anything other than evil and completely disgraceful? And honestly, it's just another example of why the European apology tours we've seen from American leaders in the past were so pathetic. How do you suck up to these guys? How do you go kowtow to their needs and their whims when this is their mindset? When that's the way they think they should rule. It's insane. Again, it's suicidal empathy, civilizational decline. Because American leadership under this administration is the complete opposite of the apology tours of the past. Remember when Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and others would basically say, America should be more like Europe, and apologize for offering or offending anyone and everyone. But we're not apologizing anymore. We're delivering results, and we're seeing the results every single day. I mean, just look at the border, where it's as secure as ever. Not because of a bunch of new laws or bureaucrats, but simply because of a new president, someone who's willing and able to enforce the existing laws on the books. In fact, last week on Capitol Hill, this line of questioning from Senator Bernie Moreno, great friend of the show, made this as clear as ever, and it perfectly encapsulates what we've been saying for years. Check it out.
Laws were changed in the last 12 months that made it so that we went from the most open border in American history, hundreds of thousands of people coming to this country illegally every month, to virtually zero. What laws did we pass? I want you to give credit to Congress for acting to pass these incredible laws that resulted in this decrease.
No laws were passed, sir. Nothing new.
Wait, what? No laws were passed?
No new laws were passed.
So we're sitting here passing judgment on your team, who actually enforced the laws of the United States of America, to not allow people to enter our country legally, to regain our sovereignty? Do your agents find sometimes that they're living in an upside down world?
I won't speak for the agents. They're not here, but I do.
It's pretty outrageous, right? Like you have a simple job: enforce the laws of the United States of America, correct?
Correct. And CBP's job, if you want to really simplify it, we're just supposed to know and then control who comes into this country and who stays in this country, consistent with the laws Congress passes. That's all we're trying to do.
And we've spent a lot of time here talking about the deaths of two protesters, and as my colleague from Florida pointed out, we haven't had a single hearing about the deaths of American citizens on the hands of criminal aliens.
Did you catch that? An official congressional hearing just confirmed what every single person watching this show already knew. No new comprehensive laws were passed or changed to go from the most open border in American history, hundreds of thousands of people pouring into this country illegally every single month, to zero, to none. Okay? No new laws. The laws were already on the books. They just weren't being enforced. It's almost as if that was done on purpose. And that exchange proves definitively and on the record and under oath that the Biden border crisis was a choice. It was deliberate. It was a deliberate policy decision by the Biden administration to not enforce existing immigration laws. The laws were there the entire time. The tools were there the entire time. They just chose not to use them. All the president had to do was say, enforce the law. And the border went from being wide open to virtually shut. So the next time some Democrat tells you we need comprehensive immigration reform before we can secure the border, that we need a new bill, that we need some sort of bipartisan deal, just play them this very clip. The border was always securable. They just chose not to secure it. And speaking of doing things that Democrats and the media claimed could never be done, my father announced this weekend that member states of his Board of Peace have pledged more than $5 billion towards humanitarian and reconstruction efforts in Gaza. Again, Biden couldn't get a peace deal done. Obama couldn't get a peace deal done. The so-called international community spent years wringing their hands and passing meaningless resolutions. And in the span of a few months, the President of the United States brokered a ceasefire, got hostages home, stood up an entirely new international body, and now has real commitments, real dollars headed towards rebuilding the region. And by the way, you know who's not participating? France, Germany, and the UK. Most of the major European countries turn their noses up at this because apparently when an American president actually gets results, the European establishment cannot handle it. They'd rather sit there in their little conferences and complain and talk about what should be done without any action, all words, no action, than actually do something. Meanwhile, the president is out here getting it done. Promises made, promises kept. So what are Democrats doing during all of this success? They're trying to distract, deflect, and obstruct as much as they possibly can. They want DHS defunded. They want ICE abolished. They want the CBP paralyzed because Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats decided that protecting agitators who assault federal officers is far more important than funding the people who keep this country safe. Let me be very clear about what's happening here. The House passed a bipartisan full-year DHS funding bill, but Senate Democrats blocked it and blocked a short-term extension because they want to handcuff ICE agent. They said they wanted body cameras, but when ICE agreed, Democrats changed their position. Then they said we can't let ICE agents to be able to cover their faces because they don't want ICE agents to be able to pick up violent criminals and actually do their jobs. Now ICE is already fully funded in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So the folks actually affected by this political stunt are really just collateral damage in the complete circus that the Democrats have created. This is all politics. There is no serious policy issue here. Here's Tom Homan on some of the latest developments in Minneapolis and beyond.
Depends on the situation. I've said from day one that, we need to flood the zone and sanctuary cities with additional agents. The number of agents depend on the situation on the ground, how many known criminal targets are out there, because we know we have a problem with sanctuary cities, because we know they're releasing public safety threats in the public. So rather than arrest that one criminal in jail, one agent arresting one criminal alien in the safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the agent, safer for the alien, safer for the community, they release him in the street. Now we've got to send a whole team or 6 or 7 people. That is the win we had in Minnesota, everybody, because now we have agreements and coordination with jails. We can arrest that public safety threat in the safety and security of jail, which means we don't have to send 6 or 7 people out to look for them. So I'm hoping other sanctuary cities look at what happened in Minnesota and how we got to the place we're at, which I think is a good place. I hope more people pay attention to that, and we work with these states to let our officers in the jail. You can't, a lot of politicians are out there on the left or the Democrats saying, okay, ICE, we agree. You should be focusing on public safety threats. You should be focusing on illegal aliens who have committed serious crimes in this country. But they lock us out of the jail. You can't square that. If you really want us to focus on the criminals, then let us in the jail. That's the safest, most secure place to.
And get this. Back when the Democrats still at least pretended to have some common sense, Chucky Schumer had a much different view on immigration, citizenship, and things like voter ID. Here's a quick trip down memory lane for all of you.
Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
And while we're on the subject of Democrats and their delusion, the communists now in charge of New York are embroiled in yet another scandal because a staffer at the New York City Health Department has resurfaced ex post, wishing that Israelis were, quote, wiped off the earth. The Post literally said, one Israeli left in this world would be one too many. Let that sink in. You don't have to agree with all things Israel, but understand the mindset. This is someone working in the New York City government, appointed by the new comrade mayor. And this is the same city government that lectures the rest of the country about tolerance and inclusion, the same city that declared itself a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants, The same city run by Democrats from top to bottom. This is who's running your public health infrastructure in the largest city in America. People who wish an entire nation of people didn't exist. And remember the story we showed you out in Queens, where the lunatic charged after officers with a knife? Remember that one? Before being shot, well, Mayor Mamdani is now doubling down and says he deserves dignity, and the authorities should take the cuffs off. Don't believe me? Listen for yourself.
Attorney is expected to bring charges against Javed
I'm sorry, Glenn, we're just doing
Chakrabarti later
on-topic
today.
questions
I'm just wondering if you knew, if you talked to the Queen District Attorney about that, if you talked to the family. I'm curious what you would say about it.
So I think I caught the bulk of your question. I have not directly spoken with the district attorney. I will say, however, that no family should have to endure this kind of pain. What they need right now is care, dignity, and support. Jabez should not be prosecuted by the Queen's district attorney. His handcuffs should be removed.
Excuse me? Deserves dignity for charging at officers with a knife? How can you be a police officer in this environment where the mayor defends the guy with the knife and then attacks the cops? And of course, you already remember who Mamdani's biggest backer was, AOC, which brings us back to Munich, on where the new thought leader of the Democrat Party decided to try out her skills on the world stage. And guys, let's just say she did not take home the gold medal. AOC sat down for a panel alongside Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So I guess this is supposed to be the Democrats' party's audition tape for 2028. This is their bench, their future, their best and their brightest. At one point, AOC was asked a question about China and Taiwan, and here's what happened next.
Should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Did you guys follow that? I mean, Comfort and Joy, I think, nailed it. It sounded almost like Kamala Harris, the Kamala Harris word salad, because I didn't follow any of it. And I'm sure that President Xi of China is right now shaking in his boots. AOC is definitely on it. And by the way, it didn't stop there. She also confused the Trans-Pacific Partnership with the Transatlantic Alliance, had to correct herself on social media later on, and then she went on this whole tangent about a rules-based order that eliminates the hypocrisies around the world. What exactly does that mean? Listen to this. And then, if you're in the live chat, can someone, I don't know, maybe diagram this sentence for me? Because I don't get it at all. It's pretty wild.
What we identify is that in a rules-based order, hypocrisy is vulnerability. And so I think what we are seeking is a return to a rules-based order that eliminates the hypocrisies around when too often in the West we look the other way for inconvenient populations to act out these paradoxes.
Wow. I too can throw a bunch of words together that don't belong and have no meaning. But somehow, guys, it got even worse from there. Because when asked about Venezuela, well, let's just say AOC was, I don't know, a little south of being accurate. Check this out.
We look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not a it is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. And
apparently AOC is as bad at geography as she is at foreign policy, at governance, at pretty much everything else she does, because there's not a single portion of Venezuela that is below the equator. And the people clapping at the Munich Security Conference clearly don't understand that either. So I'm glad for Europe that these are the people that are making decisions for them and all of their citizens. I'm sure that'll work out well. And from there, this moron walked into yet another rake when she tried to mock Secretary Rubio for saying cowboys are rooted in Spain. She thought she really had a gotcha moment here, but little did she know that it was Spain that literally introduced horses to Mexico. And the cowboys tradition actually traces all the way back to medieval times in Spain. She literally is this arrogant and this dumb at the same time. By the way, her last name is Cortez, so maybe she should learn a little bit about Spanish conquistadors because, maybe named after one. So given all of that, and this perhaps is the best part, when Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, got asked about Ukraine, she actually deferred to AOC because she is more, and I quote, steeped in foreign policy than a governor. You literally can't make it up.
What does victory look like?
Ambassador? No, please. I'd love to hear your answer.
It is. The two that I am on the panel with are much more steeped in foreign policy than a governor is. But I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass, and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal from my vantage point. Go ahead, Ambassador. Do a better job.
So let's get this clear, guys. The two women who are supposedly the future of the Democrat Party flew to Munich to show the world they're ready for prime time. And one of them gave a, Kamala Harris graduate level word salad, and the other basically said, I'll pass and defer to word salad lady. This is who the Democrats have waiting in the wings. This is their talent pipeline. A Democratic socialist congresswoman who can't answer a straightforward yes or no question on Taiwan, pushing a global wealth tax at a European conference, not even knowing where the equator is, and this is the real intellectual arsenal of the left? And by the way, these are some of the same people in an all-out panic about the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote and photo ID to cast a ballot, like, by the way, pretty much every country in the world requires. And now, we even have some Senate rhinos like Mitch McConnell trying to stand in the way. Here's the latest from the bill's co-sponsor, Mike Lee.
Try to imagine for a second the kind of chaos that would ensue if you took the arguments in opposition to the Save America Act, the argument that almost always focuses on the supposed difficulty of procuring identification documents, whether documents to prove citizenship at the time of registration or a government-issued photo ID at the time of voting. Imagine if you applied that to any of the other myriad contexts in which it's required to prove who you are, either when you fill out an I-9 form, when you start a new job, or every American, when starting a new job with a new employer, you have to fill out an I-9 form, which has very rigid documentation requirements to establish your U.S. citizenship. Now, the Save America Act's documentation requirements for citizenship are infinitely more flexible, easier to comply with than those accompanying the I-9. Imagine if the reaction there were just, okay, nobody has to prove that. Imagine if nobody had to prove anything anytime. When they boarded a plane, when they bought a hunting or a fishing license, when they picked up a payment, made withdrawals from a bank, or when they did a background check when purchasing a firearm, any of those things, you'd be laughed at if you said some people might find it difficult to comply. Therefore, we're not going to require any identification or documentation at all. This is nonsense. It's doubly nonsense given that the Save America Act makes these things really, really easy to comply with. It is not at all hard. It's so much more flexible than the opponents of the Save America Act are suggesting. So keep that in mind.
Well, opponents are trying to call it a threat to democracy, but you and I really both know the real threat to democracy is allowing elections where nobody has to prove who they actually are. And speaking of elections, Hakeem Jeffries went on CNN's State of the Union yesterday and openly declared that Democrats will spend whatever it takes to redistrict Virginia and leave only one Republican seat. Right now, Virginia has 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Under their new map, it would be 10-1. 10 Democrats, 1 Republican, in a state that still has millions of conservative voters. Check it out.
Are you guys willing to spend on Virginia? Now this is going to go to a ballot referendum in April, could have a huge impact on the midterms. How much money are you guys willing to put in to get this ballot initiative through?
Whatever it takes.
I mean, that sounds like a lot. It could be several, maybe multi-million-dollar campaign.
We will spend tens of millions of dollars to make sure that the Republicans do not successfully manipulate voters in Virginia, and that voters have all of the information necessary to make a decision around whether they want Donald Trump to rig the midterm elections and halt the ability for the American people to decide who's in the majority, or whether the people of Virginia and the people of America should be the ones.
Let's get it clear, guys. This is not about fair maps. This is about power. They're doing the same thing in Maryland, trying to eliminate the one remaining Republican seat. California already approved a Democratic-backed redistricting measures, and Jeffries is out there bragging about it. They're spending tens of millions of dollars to gerrymander their way back into the House majority. They can't win on ideas, so they're going to try to rig the maps. Virginia has an April referendum on this, and every Republican in that state needs to understand exactly what's going on. And finally, I want to talk about something that's been building this week at the Winter Olympics in Milan, because it ties into everything we've been discussing. You've got a growing number of American athletes, people who are wearing the stars and stripes, competing on behalf of this country, going in front of cameras and trashing America on a world stage. It started with freestyle skier Hunter Hess, who told reporters, "I want you to hear this in his exact words. It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now." Watch for yourself.
Emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting here.
There are athletes from all over the world who would give anything, I mean anything, to compete for the United States. In fact, the best athletes from countries across the globe actually use our Olympic training centers here in America. Yet, some of our own American athletes can't muster up the basic sense of gratitude for the country that gave them the training facilities, the funding, the coaching, and the platform to compete on the biggest stage in the world. It's a disgrace. When you put on that uniform and you wear that flag, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing the nation. And it's an honor that carries with it great responsibility. And by the way, what are these mixed emotions exactly? Because on every single front, foreign policy, national security, energy, elections, the economy, the border, this president is delivering. Rubio gave that speech, and really the speech of a generation, at Munich, while Democrats sent AOC to mumble a word salad through a question about Taiwan that she had clearly no understanding of. These are the people that are making life or death decisions, and they don't know what they're talking about. This is the difference between a party that governs and a party that obstructs and grandstands, between leaders who deliver results and politicians who deliver word salads, between people who love this country and people who are embarrassed by it, or embarrassed because they too are just listening to the narrative and don't actually have any real understanding about what's going on. And the American people see it. They see it every single day. So with that, guys, maybe we'll go to the chat, take a couple questions, and see what's going on. So if you've been chiming in, questions, I don't need the statements. If you put it up there once or 30 times and I don't get to it, it's probably because it's not worth answering. So let's have at it, guys. Have some fun. Let's see. Don Trump is great. Thank you. I really appreciate that. MAGA BLVCK9. I agree. Let's see. Okay, a lot of the same stuff. Guys, I mean, we do need some original content here sometimes. I get it. I understand you guys have some singular issues. We don't need to go there on all of them. I think you all know exactly where I stand, so we don't have to go there. Are you allowed to curse on here? Yes, I try to keep it a family show, so I tell everyone to download the Rumble app on your smart TV so that you can watch with your family. You can probably curse a little bit in the chat. I try my best not to, although some of these things are so infuriating that I definitely break the general rule on occasion, but generally we try to keep it clean for the families and for the kids. Hey, Don Jr., I'm from Virginia, and I pray to God that President Trump is keeping a close eye on us because we voted for him and in many different areas. I'm in the 2 of the new gerrymander map districts, I guess. So that's no more cover-ups. Yeah, I mean, listen, Virginia is definitely a Democrat state, but it's not that Democrat. It's still, 40-something% Republican, and yet they want them to basically have no representation. That's got to change, and that's got to be fixed, but that's not what Democrats want to do. They want to say, hey, if we have, 51% to 49, we're going to make sure that there's absolutely no Republican leadership. When Republicans try to just get fair maps in states, they're told they're gerrymandering, but if you look at all of these really left-leaning states, they've been doing this for years. If you look at New York, if you look at Massachusetts, if you look at any of them, it's not even close to a semblance of representation. Don Jr., are you a good skier? I can hold my own. Yeah, no, I'm pretty good. Made it through without breaking anything, which is always nice at my age. Definitely not like these Olympians, but my mom was an Olympic skier. She put us on skis, probably before we were 2. And for a guy, I guess, now that only skis a couple of days a year, I'm still pretty good. But we'll have to maybe do a video one day. Let's see, Vincent Gard Lombardi. Don, will you have your wedding reception at the new White House ballroom? Probably not at the new White House ballroom. It could be cool to do at the White House, but if we did that, it would be very small, whatever it is. I think, the ballroom's still probably 18 months, 2 years out, and I think Bettina, I don't think she's going to let me slide that long. So I imagine it'll happen before the ballroom is finished, one way or the other. Would be a great place to break it in, but that's a big ballroom. I mean, it's meant for a lot of people, and I think if we did anything, especially if we did anything at the White House, it would be very small, family, very close friends, and then maybe we do like some sort of, bigger party afterwards. But, it doesn't seem like the place you're going to bring thousands of people or, even hundreds of people. Want to keep it tight, small, intimate family stuff. So we shall see, but yeah, probably not in the ballroom. I think if I tried to push it off that long, I'd get in trouble and we'd be doing a far more traditional courthouse wedding. So let's see. Comfort and Joy, just post a photo of the wedding, Junior. We're excited for you. I'm excited as well. It will be awesome. We gotta get there first, but hopefully we'll do that, and I'm sure we can post a couple pictures for you guys. So maybe that's the question. Do you guys actually want to see that stuff? Because I'm not as into when I see the royal wedding in the UK and it's a big whole thing. Obviously when you're in the public eye a little bit, some of this stuff always gets out, or someone's leaking selfie photos to, whatever magazine it is and stuff like that. But I don't know. I sort of would rather keep it private, intimate. I'm out there a lot on a lot of things, especially on things that matter politically to me or whatever it may be. But generally, other than, some snapshots here and there, generally kind of keep the intimate stuff out. It's not that easy to do, actually. But, you got to keep a little semblance of, some privacy. Again, almost impossible in this world. But, maybe we'll give you something. So, okay. Sharnaf, at least one picture. Okay, I think we can, you have a deal. At least one picture, maybe two. Okay, JenJoy83, we want to see your wedding. Okay, well, okay, maybe the tide is shifting. Oh, when we win Trump, we'd love to see your wedding. A little bit sticky. Yeah, well, okay. Yes, so I assume that's yes for pictures. So, okay, well, we'll see. But again, I think we want to, yes, just peachy. We have to see the bride's gown. Okay, I'm sure we can do that. I'm sure Bettina would want to do that also. She does love her fashion. I think she's got really great style. Another one for the bride's gown. So maybe she's probably gonna like this line of questioning more than I will. Again, try to do my best. Again, I'm out there more than most in a lot of ways. Try to keep some of the stuff sort of behind the scenes. Obviously, share some family and kid stuff every once in a while, but for the most of the time, just kind of keep my head down on that stuff. She does have great style, Junior. Thank you. Now, she does not just beautiful inside and out, but also does a great job with that. So, is she an agent? Cygnus, no, not an agent. Nope. Third generation Palm Beach, so probably not. I don't see a lot of agents in that part of the world, probably. So I think we're clear, guys. We're probably good. Lotus 8, have the wedding in Greenland. That would be pretty funny, actually. I mean, you basically probably have like a 3-day window where it's warm enough to do a wedding because you'd want to probably be outside and enjoy some of that beauty. But that would be funny. But yeah, probably not. Probably not going to happen that way. Sunday Lady 444, love the kids fishing. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'll post. That stuff. But, I try not to open the kimono too much on that. You need to be able to keep some of it. You go too far and then, it's sort of hard to come back. And I try to keep that stuff. I don't talk about a bunch of, you'll see pictures of me, when I'm outdoors doing the hunting or fishing thing. But, try not to get into too much of the details. Obviously, I have my, outdoor brand, Field Ethos, kind of high-end print magazine, multimedia, social media stuff, Field Ethos Journal. We do some stuff with that and get a lot more behind the scenes with that. But when I'm doing my own thing, sometimes you got to be able to just reset and step away from, all of this and, see where it goes. Will you have your sister-in-law, Laura Trump, officiate your wedding? You never know. I mean, I think Bettina has joked that she wants, I don't even know if she's joking. She wants my dad to officiate it because she just wants to see the speech. No prepared remarks, just let him go and we can hear about tariffs in China and the jokes about me, definitely at my expense for a solid 45 minutes. It could be one of the great rants of all time. So, maybe not Laura. It could be a possibility. I think she'd do a great job with it. But, the DJT one could be really funny. Maybe never been done before. I'm not sure if a sitting president's ever officiated a wedding, so that could be kind of cool just from a historical standpoint. But that would actually be fun. Let's see. Please know we just care about whatever you are comfortable with. I appreciate that. Most people are not. But no, I appreciate that. And again, I try to find a happy medium. I do want to let people in. I want them to see, some of that stuff. But I feel for your own humanity, you probably need, sometimes a little time away and a little bit of backing up. Because, again, once you go all the way there, it's fine. But honestly, I travel commercial, I travel commercial coach most of the time. And, when I dress down and just go totally casual, usually get left alone frankly, the people that notice are usually fans because they're perhaps used to seeing me like out of a suit and tie. And so, it's usually pretty good. You'd be surprised. There's a lot more fans than haters. Every once in a while you get the haters, but it's a good one. I respect your space, Junior. I would want the same thing. Yeah, it's a tough thing. Obviously, with either a platform or some notoriety, it does open a lot of doors, and so you have to, I think it'd be foolish to not take advantage of, some of them. But again, striking that happy medium where it's just not all out there. Everyone's in every aspect of your life, and so there's a happy medium. I haven't seen a picture of her. That would be nice. I'm sure there's pictures on my Instagram or in my stories or her Instagram stories. Her name's, Bettina Anderson. I'm sure you can, find it out there. So she's a beautiful and incredible woman, just very smart, very funny. And, I'm sure you'll see some pictures of her and you'll probably agree and understand what I'm talking about when you see the style. So I imagine whatever she decides to do for a wedding dress will pretty amazing. But the other part of that is it's always a little hard. Like I get it, we're blessed to be able to do something and perhaps even do something extravagant, which I don't really want to do it just because you can. There's a lot of people that don't have that ability or the financial ability to do those kinds of things. So I don't put a lot of that stuff out there just because I don't want people to be like, oh, it must be nice. Like it is if you can do it sometimes. I promise you, it also comes with some hardship. I'm not saying it's worse and it's not a woe is me moment, but I promise you, again, what you see on the gram, not just for me, but for most celebrities, it's not always an accurate reflection of real life and what's really going on. And I see so much of that stuff out there that I'm just like, it's like trying to flex on people, which I never really want to do. So I always try to step back and just, be real where I can. So, this is an interesting one. Sean Lucas, who's a better golfer, you, your dad, or Kai? Well, definitely not me, because I don't really even play golf. I was good. My dad always yells at me because he said, you could be a +3 if you played, you'd be great. I guess I had a good swing, and I hit the ball real far and had pretty decent control. But when I was out on the golf course, I'd see a pond, and all I'd want to do is go fishing, or I'd see the woods, and I'd want to go hunting. And so I just never had the passion for it. So if you don't have the passion for it, you're probably not going to put in the time required to get great. And if I'm not going to be great at it, probably don't have as much interest. So that leaves my dad or Kai. He's a great golfer. She's a great golfer. Maybe we'll have to arrange that match for real. And as even my dad always jokes with guys, even if I can get you now, I guess all you got to do is wait. Just give it time. Okay? He's going to be 80 in June. So, in time, she doesn't have to do that much. She has to stay reasonably healthy, and eventually she'll win. Who's the best hunter in the family? Obviously me, but two of my boys are pretty into it, and both incredible shots. And, I guess they have me as a mentor, and, I can do some of the stuff that I definitely could not have done when I was their age, because I'm taking them there. Obviously, I wasn't going to get my dad to take me to, the Yukon or, crazy places in the world. So I had to sort of learn a little bit of the hard way, doing, all the cool stuff that you can do in your backyard. And they did a lot of that too, but they also have the ability to go further and farther away early. Is Eric a good hunter? Yeah, he does some of it. He's probably not as into it as me. He does a couple trips a year, whereas, I'm out there hunting or fishing. Something, almost, every chance I have some free time when I'm not with my kids. Kai is a beautiful young lady. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is Eric a good shot? Yeah, Eric's a really good shot. He's a great machinist. I mean, he builds his own rifles and stuff like that. So he's definitely super into the shooting aspects of it. Great shotgun shooter as well. Whereas when he's building a rifle, I'll have someone else do that for me, and I like to be out there shooting or get out there in the woods and hunt. So very similar, but very different. Should try hunting to eat. I do. I mean, I eat pretty much everything I kill. Sometimes, have a season, you go out moose hunting, you had 2,000 pounds of meat. That's probably more meat than I can eat in a year. So I also donate a lot of that to some programs over the years, hunters feeding the homeless and these kinds of things. Or, oftentimes if I draw multiple tags in multiple states, say elk or, another big animal, I'll pay for the processing there and, have them give it to some families who need it. So they're getting free protein and meat. Because, while I love hunting and I love the meat, I love all of it, I also just love being out there. And once I have enough for myself, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to stop hunting if I can also help out other people along the way. Let's see. You just read Eric's book. You really enjoyed it. Glad to hear that, Sue. Let's see. Trump Firearms Company in the works. Probably not. I mean, like I said, I have, if you guys haven't checked it out already, go check out the Field Ethos Journal. Check it out on Instagram. Sign up for the emails. Great writing, short stories, adventure lifestyle, not just hunting. It's adventure lifestyle, kind of unapologetic, man stuff. But we actually have a really strong female readership because I think that means females actually like real men. That's sort of been frowned upon for the last few years, for sure. So we represent and talk about a lot of great stuff, but it's not a kind of thing where hey, if you pay for an ad, we'll just put it in there. We only sort of do the stuff that we'd actually use in the field. Starting up a firearms company, honestly, while I'm fairly technical in that stuff, probably not the best use of my time when there's so much great stuff out there. I'd rather just support some of the great gunsmiths and the guys doing cool stuff, and help out a bunch of those than really compete with them. So you never know. And I figure if my name's on a gun company, I'd probably just get every person in Congress suing me no matter what. And so I think there's an element of liability that I probably not worth taking on that would be different than anyone else. So, appreciate that. Don Jr., a great example of what a true Westman is. Well, I appreciate that. Let's see. Women on average definitely read more than men. Respectable thing to be winning at. I think that's probably true, but I think it's less about, at least at the Field Ethos Journal, it's less about. I mean, it's more things that definitely gear towards men. I mean, you got overlanding, you got off-road racing, you got spearfishing, hunting, fishing. Definitely markets that are dominant by men, but I think there's a lot of women that actually like being with guys doing real man stuff, and so our readership and is actually in terms of an outdoor magazine very heavily skewed on the female side relative to everything else. It's still more men than female, but I think they appreciate good writing and all of that. What do you think of Jesse James guns? They're actually awesome. Jesse's a good friend of mine. He was on The Apprentice back in the day. We've stayed in touch. He started Jesse James Firearms Company. Just expensive one-off pieces. Again, not going to be for everyone. Not everyone can afford it, but he made a great one for my father during his first term. Just incredible sort of 1911 style pistol, all custom engraving. Very cool stuff. So Jesse's a true artisan. I mean, you saw what he was doing with motorcycles for decades. Got into the firearm side, doing some cool stuff. So. A very cool guy, an incredible craftsman and artisan, fun guy to hang out with as well. So he does some really cool stuff. So I really like him. Let's see, Jay-Z, Don. I'm with you, Don Jr. Different strokes for different folks. My dad took me fishing as a boy, and I loved it, which is why I love it today. But not big on baseball, which he was. So it's what calls out to you. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, just because you may not be as into something doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not as much for you. And it's funny, like when you use the golf example or the analogy, I see people going out there playing golf and passionate golfer, whatever, it loves it. It reads about it, everything. Oh, coaching and then, can't break 100. I'm like, I just don't get it. If I love something that I was never going to be good at it, I'd probably find something that I loved and was also good at. And so maybe that's what it is. So yeah, 100%, different strokes for different folks. Congrats on the wedding. Best wishes to you. I'll always love you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Maria Fari. Hasn't happened yet, but I imagine soon enough. Happy President's Day, Donald J. Trump. He is my president. Thank you for that. So yeah, I hope you guys all had a good one. Hopefully you got all of that and got to enjoy the day. Aaron Howell, one of my favorites was 1911. Shame it got stolen a handful of years back. Crazy thief took advantage of a passing train to cover sound when busting into my car window wide open. Yeah, that sucks. It definitely happens. You got to try to secure the stuff, but It's not always possible, especially if they steal your car or break into however, you're securing it. So, you got to watch out for that. But, maybe, also maybe don't leave your best stuff in the car. Everyone has their truck guns and stuff like that. And then there's the stuff that you kind of keep up on the wall and play with selectively. And, I think everything has to be used, even the super nice stuff or the collectible stuff. But you just got to play with it a little differently. What do you do when people involved in your favorite sport make you unwanted? That's a good question. You keep going. You find groups that do. I mean, listen, there's a lot of communities out there, and you see it a lot in some of these things. You have sort of the organizations that represent various sports, and they sort of get a lot of the lib talking points, and they need transgender athletes competing for against women and all of this nonsense. And yet, if you look at the actual groups and the actual people participating, it doesn't always seem like the governing bodies always represent those people well, if at all. So if you have a favorite sport, take the time, get out there, find the people who are in your group, and don't give up on it. Let's see. Virginia doesn't want anyone to carry anymore. Listen, if you live in some of those states, it's just frankly time to leave. But that's a story for perhaps another podcast, because guys, I do have to get to a business dinner tonight, and then I got to get to bed after 3-4 days with the kids. Definitely needed some rest. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. Okay, that's a big deal. This is how we get the message out. Like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Apple and Spotify if you get your podcast that way, or your friends do. Don't forget to check out our great sponsors down below and in the video description. Okay, it's a big deal to support those who actually share your values. It does take a lot of guts to support this kind of show and this kind of programming, so support those same people. I hope you all have a very happy President's Day. And so stay strong, stay informed, stay engaged, and always stay a little bit triggered. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you all again very soon.